fought the fight, breaking down the walls in the dead of night. I don't come for peace, I come for the storm. Fanboys melt quick when the truth gets warm. Saw content's high, I'm collecting those tears. Just got started, but I'm cutting through fears. I'm not here for brand deals, I'm not for sale. I expose your lies, rip off the veil.
Nintendo's strategy with the Switch 2 just does not make any sense at all. I'm at the point now where I generally believe Nintendo cannot handle third-party success on their platform. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not just throwing shade for the sake of it. I say that because if you look at their actions, if you look at their patterns, their choices, their priorities they have set, it almost feels intentional. Think about it. When you release a brand new console, the most important thing you can do is build momentum. That early period, those first 6 months to a year is everything. That's where you set the tone. That's where you tell gamers this is the place to play. You don't want your console to be seen as only the machine for your exclusives. You want it to be seen as the machine for everything. That's how you grow beyond your die-hard loyal fan base. That's how you win over the casuals, the fence sitters, and even the players who normally lean PlayStation or Xbox. It's about making your console feel alive, buzzing, full of content from every direction. But what has Nintendo done instead? They've kneecapped their own third-party developers. Not by accident, not because of bad luck. No, this feels like a deliberate choice. We've heard it over and over again from reliable sources in the industry. Nintendo has been extremely selective, I would even say stingy, with who actually get their hands on dev kits for the Switch 2. And I get it. On paper, at first glance, you want to keep things secret. You want to avoid leaks. That's normal in the industry. Sony and Microsoft both do that to an extent. But here's where Nintendo completely missed the plot. The Switch 2 did leak, not a little teaser, not a vague rumor. I mean, full-on details spilled out a year before this console even launched. At that point, the horse was out of the barn. The cat wasn't just out of the bag, it was halfway across town. And when that happens, when your entire console has basically been exposed to the public, you don't just keep pretending the secret is safe. You go into damage control mode. You double down on making sure developers have what they need so that when the system does finally hit the shelves, it launches with a bang. What should Nintendo have done? They should have flooded the industry with dev kits. They should have been knocking on the doors of every major publisher and even indie-sized studio saying, here, build something, be ready, surprise the fans, show the world what this system can do. That's how you take control of the narrative after a leak. That's how you turn a potentially bad situation into a win. But did they do that? No, they dragged their feet. They sat on their hands, and as a result, what do we have today? Instead of a Switch 2 launch era full of fresh third-party experiences, we've got old ports, we've got remasters, we've got games, let's be honest, could have ran on the original Switch without breaking a sweat. That's not momentum, that's stagnation. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just some oversight. This wasn't Nintendo being forgetful. This was part of a pattern because when you look at how they treated third parties historically, it always comes back to the same thing. Nintendo wants to be in control. They want the spotlight on their own games, their own franchises, their own creations, and the Switch 2 is no different. And it doesn't stop there. Nintendo's marketing for the Switch 2 has been frankly a disaster, and that's putting it nicely. We are now several months into this console's life cycle, and what do we actually know? Barely anything. We've seen a flashy Nintendo Direct before launch that got people hyped, but where are the follow-ups? Where are the steady release dates? Where are the clear roadmaps for fans who just dropped $450 on new hardware? Half the games they showed us in that pre-launch direct still don't have concrete dates. Some don't even have updated trailers. It's radio silence, and that's unacceptable. Because this is the honeymoon phase of the console's life. This is the time when people are the most excited, when they are the most willing to spend money, when they want reasons to justify the big purchase they just made. Instead, Nintendo leaves them hanging. Now let's contrast that with the PlayStation over there. We know what's coming, when it's coming, and how it's going to look. Their showcases might not always blow people away, but at least they set expectations. You can circle dates on calendars for upcoming games. You can feel confident in what's around the corner. With Nintendo, it's the complete opposite. It's like they are allergic to communication. And when you put those two approaches side by side, the difference is night and day. And that's where I start to think maybe this isn't incompetence. Maybe Nintendo doesn't even really want third party support. Maybe deep down they have to convince themselves they don't need it. Because if we look back, this is not a new problem. The Nintendo 64 struggled massively with third party support. Why? Those expensive cartridges scared away developers who flocked to the cheaper, more flexible CDs on PlayStation. The GameCube, same story. More power under the hood than the PS2, but still couldn't keep third party locked in. Publishers didn't feel like Nintendo was serious about giving them the spotlight, so they put their big games elsewhere. Then you get to the Wii. Yeah, it had third party support technically, but let's be honest, the quality was questionable at best. You had a flood of shovelware minigame collections and downgraded ports. Very few third party developers were putting their A team on Wii projects. Most of them were chasing gimmicks, trying to figure out motion controls, or just phoning it in with quick cash grabs. The Wii U? Do I even need to say it? A complete disaster. Third parties abandoned it almost immediately after launch, and the system weathered before it ever had a chance. And then came the Switch. Finally, Nintendo seemed to turn a corner. The hybrid idea was genius. And to their credit, they attracted some serious third-party attention. Doom, Skyrim, Witcher 3, even Mortal Kombat. All those were important wins. But let's not kid ourselves here. The Switch was never a third-party powerhouse. Those ports were compromises. They were stripped down, scaled-back versions of bigger games. They were novelty act more than definitive experiences. The real backbone of the Switch was Nintendo's first-party lineup: Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, Pokemon. Those are the games that carried that system. The third-party titles, they were side dishes, extras, nice to have, but not the main course. And maybe Nintendo looked at that success and said, see, we don't actually need third parties. We can keep our costs low, release our own exclusives, and the fans will show up no matter what. But here's the thing, times are changing. The market is different now. Gamers expect more. Back in the Wii era, you could coast on novelty. Back in the Switch era, you could coast on portability, but today, that's not enough. When your competition is putting out blockbuster after blockbuster, when massive third-party studios are lining up to showcase their work on PlayStation and Xbox and PC, you cannot just rely on Mario and Zelda forever. You can't keep putting all your eggs in the same basket. Yes, Mario and Zelda will always sell. They are evergreen franchises. But they can't carry everything, because eventually the cracks start to show. Eventually, the conversation shifts. Gamers start asking, why doesn't this console have the same big releases as the others? Why am I paying the same price or even more for less content and fewer options? And once that speed of doubt is planted, it spreads fast. And let's talk about how Nintendo is even handicapping the third-party games they do allow on their system. Marketing is a huge piece of the puzzle, and yet Nintendo will spend more time promoting some random campfire game nobody asked for while ignoring major sports titles or RPGs that could actually sell consoles. Why? Because they're afraid. They're afraid that if those third-party games get too much spotlight, people will start asking hard questions about the quality of Nintendo's own offerings. I honestly believe that's the root of this. Nintendo knows that some of their games simply cannot compete, visually or mechanically, with top-tier third-party titles. And rather than step up and improve, they'd rather suppress the competition. That's not strategy, that's fear. And then we've got the elephant in the room, those damn game key cards. The community has spoken, we don't want them. For some studios, it's just not worth it to port their games to the Switch 2 because they know the cost of the physical cartridge means they may never make their money back, and they know that we don't want the game key cards. And what happens as a result? Fewer games, weaker support, and yet another generation where Nintendo becomes the second console instead of the main one. And let's be clear, the Switch 2 is capable. On paper, it can handle some of these big games, but developers are already finding it difficult to optimize. And how do we know that? Just look at the evidence. Madden is running poorly, Elden Ring being a shadow of itself. other major titles coming in half-baked. That's not because the talent isn't there, it's because Nintendo didn't set them up for success. They withheld dev kits, they created expensive hardware limitations with those carts, and they failed to create an environment where third party can thrive. So when you put all this together, the lack of dev kits, the weak marketing, the expensive carts, the half-baked ports, the fear of competition, it paints a clear picture. Nintendo doesn't just fail at third party support. They actively avoid it because deep down, they don't want to share the spotlight. And here's why that's dangerous. Eventually, the magic run out. Yes, Mario will always sell. Yes, Zelda will always sell. But how many generations can you coast on the same formula before players start asking for more? Nintendo had lightning in a bottle with the Switch, but instead of building on that, they repeated old mistakes. And this time, the competition isn't going to sit back. PlayStation and Xbox are hungrier than ever. PC gaming is more accessible than ever. And cloud gaming is creeping up. If Nintendo keeps isolating themselves, they might wake up one day and realize their audience has moved on. This isn't just about missing out on a few ports, this is about long-term relevance. Because no matter how loyal your fan base is, no matter how strong your IPs are, if you refuse to evolve with the industry, eventually the industry leaves you behind. So yeah, Nintendo Switch 2 strategy makes no sense, and the saddest part is, it didn't have to be like this. They had every opportunity to open the door, embrace third party, and give us the strongest lineup in years, but instead, they chose fear, control, and short-term thinking. If they keep this up, it's going to cost them. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sooner or later, it will catch up to them. So here's where I'll leave it. Nintendo's strategy with the Switch 2 isn't just confusing, it's self-sabotage. They've turned what could have been a golden opportunity into yet another reminder they are stuck in the past, afraid of competition and unwilling to adapt. We've seen this play out generation after generation. The same mistake, the same arrogance, the same refusal to let third parties truly shine. And yes, Mario and Zelda will sell, they always do, but those games can't carry an entire ecosystem forever. Gamers are smarter now, expectations are higher now, and people are starting to notice the cracks. The Switch 2 could have been the console that broke the cycle, the one that finally let Nintendo stand shoulder to shoulder with PlayStation and Xbox on equal footing. Instead, Nintendo chose the safe path, the controlled path, the fearful path, and in doing so, they have left their own fans, the very people who built this company up, with fewer choices, fewer games, and fewer reasons to believe this console will be anything more than history repeating itself. So the question isn't, will Nintendo survive? Because of course they will. They have survived every stumble before. The real question is, how long will players keep accepting this? How long before the loyalty runs dry? How long before fans realize that Nintendo is holding them back just as much as they're holding back third parties? Because sooner or later, the magic runs out, and when it does, Nintendo's going to wish they had built something more than nostalgia to stand on. And now it's time to read off the members of the channel. We got Koros Objective, Maximilian Pegasus 88, Mattbox 94, Shade Milkman, Oh No is Justin, Brian Payne, Andy Ritz, Jay Wesby 65, C-Stars Piplup, Astrius Lane, Maximus 2400, John Molina, Dustin 360, and That PlayStation Gamer. Thank you so much for becoming part of the crew. And if you truly enjoyed this video, why not give it a like, share, and subscribe? I'm pushing hard to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I could really use your help to get there. Also, don't forget to check out the merch. I've got t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and even desk mats. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, consider becoming a member. It's only $1 a month, and you'll get access to special emotes, badges, and of course, your name shouted out at the end of each video. Once the list gets too long, I'll be rolling those names into a proper credit roll so everyone still gets their recognition. On top of that, you can catch me live every Monday at 5 a.m. Pacific time when I react to the saltiest fanboys around. And until next time, guys, stay vigilant.
You can cry in the comments, but you won't survive. Like and subscribe if you feel that vibe. We're